What's up, YouTube? Guess who's here again with some more Dimir Shadow content. So in this ongoing effort to get through these backlog videos, we've got another Dimir League with Shadow of Mortality. I keep getting questions of whether I think like Shadow of Mortality is the best fit or Orcish Bowmaster. I've seen Tassiger. What else? I know there's another threat in there. Brineborn Cutthroat, obviously, Brazen Barber. And ultimately, I think it's meta dependent. Like if you're expecting a lot more bolt decks, heat decks, things like that, then Shadow of Mortality looks exponentially better because you don't have to worry about it getting heated out. Like you do have to worry about yourself getting double bolted, but that's why you got all these counter spells. If you're more concerned about combo decks like Living In, then Brineborn Cutthroat looks a lot better because now you have a threat you can flash in when you're not using your meta or not using your mana that can grow as you counter some spells. If you are expecting other Orcish Bowmaster decks, then Bowmaster looks better because now you have a way to fight over their instant speed flash threat with your own instant speed flash threat. So all that to say, like, there is no, oh, A is strictly better, B is strictly better, whatever the case may be. It's all subjective, and you have to be able to be fluent with that decision. Like maybe you're going to a local event and you know there's going to be a whole lot of burn. Well, then Shadow of Mortality starts looking better because, hey, they knock down your life total for you. You get to drop down to 2 mana 7/7 and hold up some counter magic. You're going to a meta that's just full of Yawgmoth. First off, yikes. I'm sorry for you. You tried. Take your entry fee and go do something more productive. But maybe you're wanting to look at the 4 Bowmasters and have a little more interaction for some of those cheap threats. But since the purpose of some of these backlog videos is specifically testing out Shadow of Mortality, that's what we're doing here. The rest of the 75, pretty close to what we've been showing the last few backlog videos. So let's just send it. As always, if you are enjoying the commentary, enjoying the content, feel free to drop a like and a subscription on the video. That way, you know whenever new stuff's going live, you can come check it out, see what's going on, what kind of changes are being made. We'll have a link to the Twitch channel down below, twitch.tv/the_control freak if you want to come check a live stream out. Otherwise, we've got the Twitter link down below. In case you want to know whenever a stream is going live, Twitter is the first place it gets updated. I have a link to the current blue-black Death Shadow list down below. So it might not be this list, but it'll be whatever I'm currently running. And yeah, I think that's everything. Twitter, Twitch, deck list. Oh, and a link to the Control Freak Discord. In case you want to come check out anything Shadow related or non-Shadow related. Ask questions, get opinions from a bunch of great players. It's a cool place to hang out. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Through the magic of CGI and post-editing. All right, it's round number 1. Got a hand with 1 land, but we do have a Street Wraith, so like a little bit of chance we hit the second land. If we do hit the second land, hand really opens up. Hey, look, no second land. But that's part of the risk we take. Like, I run 4 Consider, 4 Street Wraith, mainly to be able to keep more 1-landers. It doesn't always work out, but that's why I try this out in leagues instead of in premier events, so that if it doesn't work out, I've already got that testing under my belt to know that it's probably not going to work out. So we're up against like an Abzan Devoted Druid deck. We saw the Giver of Runes Devoted Druid game 1, Stoneforge Mystic means they're probably running Luxior to be able to get the counter or get the infinite mana online with Devoted Druid. What we got here? Finale for 1 for Birds of Paradise. So opponent's trying to set up their mana a little bit. Well, we're going to set up a Kick Turok. Get to hit Shadow Spear and an Invasion of Ikoria. So could be setting up a Hex Mage. It looks like they're just getting a Devoted Druid. So I know they've got 1 card left in hand. They need to have the Vizier to make infinite mana, and they need to have a payoff for that infinite mana. So the likelihood of their 2 remaining cards being both Vizier and payoff is fairly low, which is why I let that Vizier resolve, because I have the counterspell for the payoff. And if they don't have a payoff, I had the Otawara to bounce the Vizier, kind of start this over again. Opponent's going to make a whole lot of mana. They're going to put the mana into a Walking Ballista that's just going to immediately go to the graveyard. And we find an EE on 2. So we're just going to like attack in. If our opponent does something we're afraid of, we can pop the EE. If they don't, like if they go for a big payoff, we've got Counterspell. If they don't attack, we don't make any moves. If they do attack or do something productive, then we have the ability to crack the EE. But opponent's just going to like run out their chump blockers until they eventually find a Lair of the Hydra, which does in fact kill us here because they can give it pro black with the Giver. We can't blow it up. So pretty rough there. I was not expecting a Lair of the Hydra top deck. Gets under the counter spells. But it's a good warm-up match. On to round number 2, up against Scam. Take our Consider. I assume take the Drown in the Lock as well. Especially if we just cycle into 3 lands. I was kind of hoping we could hit a Stubborn Denial, Fatal Push, Dismember. You know, like something to deal with the grief. But the game had other plans. So we go to 3, but we've got a Ragavan. Ragavan hits a Shieldred's Edict. Don't call it a comeback. Don't worry, I won't call it a comeback. But it at least goes to show, like, Ragavan hitting a Spyro here is absolutely hilarious. Because it goes to show how Ragavan can just, like, single-handedly take over a game. Like, it got us the red mana for Spyro. It let us play the Spyro. Or drew us into the Spyro by hitting it off their library. And now our game that was, like, very much over. We have a chance. We get to Thoughtseize away the Terminate and drop a Murktide. Like, nice. Usually you don't expect to win against Scam when your opening hand cycles into 3 more lands. They take all your non-land cards. So turn 1, Scam of Fury. That is okay because we were sitting on this Dismember. Thoughtseize away our Street Wraith. I was a little surprised with that decision. Like, I know Street Wraith could be anything, but you see Turok in my hand. Which we are 100% kicking and taking our possible 3-for-1 here. Fury and a Spyro. Thoughtsy's A-OK. Thoughtsy's away their last card. And now we just have Counterspell. Curse off the top deals with the Spyro tokens. Shadow with double stub counterspell seems like a reasonable place to be. And opponent scoops it up. So 1-1 on to match number 3. Good old Wiltron, friend of the stream. So this is like one of these one-landers I want to be able to keep with Hallowed Fountain into consider to find a second land. Or we just like find the second land off the top. We get to Thoughtseize away an Eldritch Evolution. Looks like a Chord for 0. I usually try to be very aggressive at dealing with Wall of Roots, because that card is such a fantastic enabler for their deck. Like, it gives you ridiculous amount of mana. It lets you block a lot of the cheap aggressive threats. It lets you double up on mana for Chord of Calling. Like, it just kind of does everything. But our do everything card is Shadow of Mortality. So we get down to Shadow. Now we've got double Drown and Lockup. So we could just like kill the Innkeeper, kill the Insect token. Looks like they've got a Chord of Calling as their last card. So we get to counter that and take out the Grist. I could just attack at them, but Grist is honestly a big enough issue that I want to take it out. And I kind of figure if I take it out, even if they top deck a Yawgmoth with no board presence, I'm pretty okay. And yeah, we just put the hurt on the Yawgmoth player. Getting down 3 threats bigger than a 6/6 is pretty significant in any match of Magic. Thoughtseize my Children's Edict. Edict mainly comes in just for Grist. Like, that card is so much of a problem that you need to be able to deal with it very, very proactively. Counterspell's obviously good against it on turn 3, like on the play, but on the draw, the 1-mana mana dorks make it difficult. All right, so Hapatra's going to get a Death Touch Snake here. I decided not to kill it because I got the thought, okay, maybe I Archmage's Charm to take the snake. That stands in the way of Hapatra. And turns out we were right. So the snake's not great. Like, it's a weird use of Archmage's Charm. But all I want is for the snake to buy me a little bit of time to draw out of this, like, little land pocket that I'm in. And since we finally do and get down to Shadow, now I have the ability to be a little more proactive. Unfortunately, like, second Grist is a problem, unless, of course, you just top deck everything you need and find the Thoughtseize, find the Otawara, find a backup counter spell, and we're completely fine if our opponent attacks at us with Yawgmoth. They do find another 1-drop. We find a Shadow of Mortality. So these are the kind of spots where Shadow of Mortality is great, because it's just like a big threat that you can get down without having to invest a lot. You don't have to nuke your yard for it. You don't have to worry about much. got a wolf and a wall. We also really need these additional threats to kind of put the beat down on Yawgmoth, because if we don't, then they're going to be able to regain the lead with their card advantage engines. Definitely stubbing this just to get ourselves to a clear board with 2 lethal threats. Plays another Yawgmoth, dead on board. But yeah, with the addition of cards like the One Ring, it becomes more and more important to have a steady board presence before the ring comes down. So take a Fury so they can't scam that. Take another Drown. It's not the most exciting draw in the world, but if they're going to put Fury in the yard, or not Fury, Kroxa in the yard, I kind of just want action. Pitch the land because I can fetch shock, have Shadow with Stub back up this next turn. If I did happen to find another land, then like I could fetch shock again, have Drown up. Yeah, we don't want our Shadow terminated, but looks like they're gonna have a Fury regardless. We've got Drown in the lock, so we're not like not in bad shape. We just need them to stumble for a turn on this Kroxa, which of course means not stumbling a turn on the Kroxa. All right. Open a prayer. So we dress down to stop the Kroxa triggered. Like, they're going to get the hit for 6 regardless. So I don't really care to fight over that. Unfortunately, their follow-up being Blood Moon plus Ragavan is a little bit more than I'm prepared to deal with when I'm tapped out missing my 3rd land drop. But I guess we'll give them this one and move on to game 2. Game 2 hand's pretty good. Like, it doesn't look that exciting, but having Dismember for a turn 1 scam threat, consider to help rebuild, and then a good, very, very good threat in Murktide. Means we kind of have all of our bases covered. Here I can just get down to 6/6 Murktide because it's basically terminate, scam Fury, or bust. Or, you know, Shieldred's Edict that wasn't on my radar. Little bit of a flood out going on here. Okay. I know it's pretty common to hear about like flooding in Death Shadow decks. And a lot of times that's just because once you get past like 4 lands, you can't do enough with that excess mana. Like, you just don't have plays to make. So it doesn't really matter what like the 4th, 5th, 6th land, really in Dimir, like 5th, 6th land, hitting those is pretty much a waste because, like I said, you just can't do anything with those lands anyway. You don't have enough pips and spells to do anything. So yeah, them having an undying effect for this Fury means we're probably dead. Fatal push their Fury just to get Murktide up to a 5/5 so it can trade with the Fury. But if they just have another Fury, yeah. Not beating that. Not beating that at all. But on to match number 4. We see Kahira on the other side, so could be like a 4 or 5 color elemental pile, could be blue-white control. Hand's decent against blue-white control if they don't chalice us right away. Thoughtseize is solid. Second Thoughtseize is good. I could go for a Thoughtseize right here. But if I go for Thoughtseize right here, I'm locked into casting the second Thoughtseize as well. Because I don't want my opponent to like have counterspell my Thoughtseize or Teferi or something, and me not be able to play the second Thoughtseize. But once I get to 3 mana, I have the ability to cast Thoughtseize and then like wait. So when my opponent goes for this Teferi, I get to counterspell this. I'll be able to untap Thoughtseize again, hold up counterspell again, and then I'm kind of turning the corner. So opponent still got 2 Solitudes and a Teferi. Opponent still got 2 Solitudes. And now the hope is that our opponent decides to get a little greedy. And what I mean by that is if they just like start hard casting Solitudes and don't do anything else, maybe we can find a way to fight over them. Like so. So we got to counter the first Solitude. They immediately go for casting the second one. We get to counter that. And I just want to pause real quick to say we did just fight through triple Solitude, double Teferi with our deck that is supposed to auto lose to Solitude. Some people would say Solitude is super easy to play around and free. I don't think that's the case, but I think that you can put yourself in a position to beat Solitude if you have a plan for it. And like right there, my plan is to push them into a situation where their best out is going to be like 2-for-1ing themselves. But they didn't want to do that, so we got to sneak away a little bit there. So verdict, pending Teferi. Take the verdict. So I know they've got prismatic ending and Teferi. Play out our double shadow, hold up stub. So like they're gonna get one of these things off, either resolve the Teferi or resolve the prismatic ending. Personally, I think the Teferi is the bigger issue. If they had started with the prismatic ending first, I would have let that resolve. And then still planned on countering the Teferi because that is definitely the bigger issue. But we put our opponent on a 1-turn clock. If they're going for this Archmage's Charm, I don't know why they wouldn't just go for it on their turn. Like, I don't think there's a benefit to going to my turn, letting me untap, get another land drop, and potentially have like 2 spells up. But yeah, that's that league. Changes that I'm considering going forward. The second Hercules recall is a little less necessary. We saw as soon as the Lord of the Rings set dropped, there were Asmo food decks just everywhere trying out like the new Samwise Gamgee, stuff like that. So I really wanted the extra Hercules recall to fight over some of the food decks, the cat oven decks. Since the sets dropped, that's been a little less necessary. Orcish Bowmaster has been... It's had a lot of ups and downs in testings. Like, I've had a lot of matches where it's been just 2 mana, 2/1/1 tokens at flash speed, and that's it. It's never done anything more. I know people are going to comment like, oh, it pings your opponent too. Yeah, but the ping doesn't matter. You might say that's like enough of a reason to bring it up over, raise the alarm, but the ping is whatever. The 2/1/1 bodies are pretty mid floor for a card, so just be careful in evaluating that way. That being said, I've also had some matches where Bowmaster has done a lot of work against the One Ring. So, not to say that Bowmaster is not a good card. Just I don't know if that's the way that I want to fight over the One Ring yet. Still in testing, still figuring that out. And I do think that Yawgmoth and Scam are the two best Bowmaster decks. I know I've seen Grixis Shadow show up some with the Bowmasters, but I do think it is a step behind Yawg and Scam, mainly because it doesn't have the ability to do something broken early on in the game. For example, putting in a Scammed Grief or Scammed Fury, playing Blood Moon, or in the case of Yawgmoth, having the combo ability. Grixis Shadow kind of lacks those. So even if you are a decent Bowmaster deck, you're lacking the ability to really capitalize on your opponent stumbling. Because in Grixis, your capitalization is like, hey, here's a Dragon's Rage Channeler and a Bauble. Go. So keep that in mind if you're picking up Grixis, that you are still going to have to work for your wins. And if you are like me and you're so tired of the Bowmaster mirrors already, uh, keep in mind that those are going to be everywhere if you register Bowmaster. It's going to be so much Bowmaster, your Bowmaster. Well, in response, Bowmaster, your Bowmaster. All right, untap Bowmaster, your Bowmaster. That Bowmastered my Bowmaster because I Bowmastered your Bowmaster. And if you're not ready for that over several rounds, then I would consider just playing something that's going to like answer Bowmaster, maybe Stern Scolding or whatever. But I probably wouldn't go too heavy down the Bowmaster route yourself if you're not mentally ready for that kind of grind. But hope everybody enjoyed the video. As always, hope if you're enjoying the content, again, feel free to drop a like or subscription. Doesn't cost you anything. Other than that, hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. Stay safe. Enjoy some good food and company. Catch you back live later. Adios for now.